Hey everybody, I'm Jenna Schulman, and if you haven't been on one of these before, I'm hosting these College Spotlight series all summer long. I've done about 15 or so far, and I'm very happy to have Binghamton University on today. I love the fact that David Babb, the admissions counselor that I'll introduce in just a bit, has brought on such a wide array of students, not one, but it seems like there's 3 students here, which makes things a lot more interesting. If you've seen any of them before, whenever we bring students on, it's just much more innovative and interactive, and you could hear from the student perspective, which is a lot better than anything else, especially during these times when you can't see the school. So I think a lot of you guys on here are from New Jersey. I'm looking through. David is the New Jersey admissions counselor. So he covers, I believe, the entire state and has been to a lot of different high schools and reads a lot of applications. So I will introduce him, and I will have him introduce these 3 students to learn all about our one and only SUNY school that we are spotlighting this summer, and have him introduce you about Binghamton and tell you what a SUNY school is. I think if he
Okay, I'm
there
here.
you go.
I'm gonna come on now. Guys, if you can come on camera now. I know that you're all hiding back there. Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is David Babb. I am the Assistant Director for New Jersey Recruitment. I'm based here in New Jersey. I live in Essex County, so if any of you are near the Oranges, we are neighbors. So today we're going to go through this this whole thing here, and I want to thank Jenna for being so kind to have us do this. I'm going to do my best and try to give you as much information as we possibly can. And then I have 3 lovely students with me, 3 of our current students. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves in just a second. But I'll give you a little rundown of how we're going to do our program. So it will be us doing this intro. I will come on and do a brief info session similar to what you would receive if you were on campus. And it's unfortunate that I won't be seeing any of you on campus this summer, but I'll do my best to try to give you an info session here. Then our students are gonna do, we're gonna have a student panel. I have some questions for them already. And in the background, if you are using the Q&A, and Jenna, the Q&A is active, correct?
Yep, okay. So I'll be monitoring that, and then I'll try to get to them. Maybe they're out if they're relevant, but probably save them for the end. And you guys can ask David or Emma, Grace, or Ryan, or all 3.
Okay. So that works too. And then I'm gonna, there is a link for just, if you want more information after this, I'm gonna ask Grace to post that to all to all attendees in a second. But let's go ahead and have you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll go ahead and start.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma. I'm a rising sophomore in the School of Management, and I'm from Long Island, New York. And on campus, I'm involved in Women in Business, Habitat for Humanity, and Pause and Effect.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace. I'm going into my junior year at Binghamton, and I'm majoring in mechanical engineering. And as for my involvement on campus, I'm in the Society of Women Engineers, the club gymnastics team, and I'm also kind of involved with the Newman House on campus, which is, well, it's slightly off campus, but it's like the Catholic church there.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan. I am a neuroscience major going into my senior year. I'm big into research on campus, as you can see from my poster behind me, and I am also a player on the men's club lacrosse team.
Nice. All right. So thank you guys again for being here with us. I'm going to go ahead and start our presentation. So I'll be sharing my screen in just a second. So just bear with me and let me make sure it all works. And then students, if you guys want to go off camera for this, and then you'll come back on for the panel. All right. Okay. Can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up there. Okay, I think we're good. So, as I said, this is Binghamton University, and Binghamton is one of the SUNY schools in New York State. This is actually a pretty good shot of the university in general, and I love that our presentation always starts off with this picture because it's a really good aerial view of our main campus. So Binghamton is a university. We have a few different campuses located in Binghamton, New York. We are just about 3 hours away from New York City, and we're close to a lot of the other major metropolitan areas. So if you can actually take a look here, I'm going to try to move my cursor around, but this is actually, from the sky, the university looks like a brain. So we're kind of nerdy and brainy. That's how they built the school. And this mountain in the background, for those of you that haven't been to campus, that's actually ours. That's a part of our nature reserve. So if you're looking for a school that owns a mountain, there you go. You can say you're looking at Binghamton. Okay, so within New York State, Binghamton is the #1 public institution in the state. We are a part of the SUNY system, otherwise known as State University of New York. So SUNY is the largest public school system in the world. There are 64 colleges and universities across the state of New York. Many of you are looking at Binghamton. You may be looking at other SUNYs. So you may be looking at schools like Stony Brook or Buffalo or Albany. Those are also SUNYs in the state of New York. We are all a part of the same system, but we're all independent universities and colleges. And within that system, Binghamton is #1, which pretty much just means that we're one of the harder ones to get into. So a few fast facts about the university. So we have just above 14,000 undergraduate students. Our total population on campus being roughly around 20,000 students with our grad students. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves about is our 92% retention rate. And that pretty much means that students want to stay with us. So that retention rate is calculated for students that want to stay from their first year into their second year. And that's a big deal for us, knowing that students want to be at Binghamton and they love their experience there. And then if you look at the map, as I was mentioning before, this kind of gives you an idea as to where Binghamton is. We're located right here, right on the southern tier of the state of New York. And as I said, just about a 3-hour drive north from New Jersey. And then for any of you that are in other parts, if you're looking at New York City, Long Island, similar. So I know you probably have heard from a few other schools in these other weeks if you've participated in them. So the one thing that is really unique about Binghamton and unique to other universities is that any school with the university title typically is going to be broken down similar to the way we are. So we're one university, but we have 6 colleges. So when you apply to Binghamton, you would be applying, even though you may be indicating a major, you're going to be applying to one of our 6 schools at the university. So our main school is Harper College of Arts and Sciences, and that's where you'll find pretty much all your arts, your sciences, and pretty much all your liberal arts degrees. And if any of you are thinking about coming in undecided, which about 60% of our students do, you would be applying into Harper College of Arts and Sciences. Now, our professional schools are a little bit different. They have specific majors, and I'll try to detail them in a second. So the next one is the College of Community and Public Affairs, and this is where you will find 2 undergraduate programs with a huge amount of graduate level programs as well. This is where you'll find education programs. We have our 2 undergraduate programs is called Human Development, and the other one is Social Work. We also have the Decker College of Nursing and Health Sciences. You'll find 2 majors there as well, all the way through to the graduate level. You'll be nursing and health sciences. We have a School of Management located on campus, and that is where you'll find business and accounting and anything that falls under business. For any of you interested in economics, you'll be applying to our Arts and Sciences school. We also have a pharmacy school on campus, and that's actually located at one of our off-campus locations in Johnson City, which is a close nearby town to the campus. And I actually will talk about transportation and getting around as we get through this. And then the last one I want to talk about is the Thomas J. Watson School of Applied Sciences, of Engineering and Applied Sciences. This is where you'll find 5 engineering options in addition to computer science. So Ryan a little later is going to talk about some research opportunities that we have at Binghamton, but just know that if you were to come to Binghamton, you have a ton of options for research. This gentleman right here in the bottom right corner, we love talking about him because he actually just won a Nobel Prize last year in chemistry for his work on the lithium-ion battery that's powering all of our phones, our computers right now. So if you're using any of that right now, you have a Binghamton connection. And Dr. Whittingham actually works with our students in one of our first year research programs, which I'll talk about in a second as well. So as I said, we have a few research programs on campus. So we have two main ones that first year students will experience right away. And that's the first year research immersion, which is for STEM-based programs. So if you're interested in anything in STEM, it's possible you may be nominated for this research project, which gives you the opportunity to work with a faculty member in a research lab for your first year and a half. And the other one is called the Source Project. And this is for students in the humanities, liberal arts, and the other areas. Give me 1 second. Okay. Yep, in the humanities, the liberal arts, and the other areas. For those of you interested in honors programs and scholars type programs, just know that at Binghamton, we have two honors programs. So we have the PwC Scholars Program, and we also have the University Scholars. So University Scholars is going to be typical to what you would find at other institutions with honors programs. You don't apply for either one of these. It's going to be based on your transcripts and when we review your application. And that's for pretty much all the students at the university. The other program is called the PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers Scholars Program. And that is for students specifically in the School of Management. So if any of you have ever heard of PwC, it's the #1 global services firm in the United States. They actually sponsor our honors program. And if you are a part of that program, there's a ton of perks that comes with it. And if you have specific questions, we will get to that, throw it in the Q&A. So we talked about research. If you're looking for an institution that has tons of opportunities for internships, co-ops, and all of this, you will work directly with our Fleischman Career and Resource Center. We have a fantastic placement rate getting students out into the world when they leave us. So if you're thinking about where you will go and what you will do after you leave Binghamton, just know that we have a lot of resources to make sure that you are successful. We have 2 career fairs a year. Some of the professional schools have their own career fairs on campus. So if that's something you're thinking about, just know that it's an option at Binghamton. In addition to that, because we're a part of the SUNY system, you actually have the option to study abroad. We have over 1,000 study abroad programs. So at over 100 different countries, in over 100 different countries. So if you're looking to study abroad and thinking about that, just know that that is an option at Binghamton, and we have over 1,000 programs to go to all 7 continents. So as I made mention to some of the Binghamton impacts and where you will end up if you were to, come to Binghamton when you leave us, we have a ton of alumni all over the world. You'd be joining an alumni base of 25,000 strong. One that you may all know if you watch TV or if you watch commercials would be Stephanie Courtney. She's actually not on the screen here right now, but she's Flo from the Progressive commercials. So if that's something that you've seen, that's a Binghamton alum. And then somebody closer to home would be Adam Fox. Adam is right here. He actually works in New Jersey, came to Binghamton as a New Jersey student, and works at Rutgers Medical. And we have a program for our students that you could shadow a Binghamton alumni working in the field in which you want to go into. And even though Adam was a political science major when he was on campus, he ended up in medicine. And so for any of you thinking about going into pre-med, thinking of things like that, just know that you don't have to major in biology or you don't have to major in some science to go into pre-med. And Adam actually is one of the alum that helped sponsor this shadow program. So you could actually get to shadow Adam for a week while you're a student at Binghamton. And he's one of the alum you could request to shadow with, and there's a ton others, and this is just some of them that we have. So it's things for you to start thinking about. Now, Binghamton is a Division I institution. Where we're not known for that. I'll let you know that really, really clearly. Our teams are not the greatest, but we do really well in certain sports. With fantastic baseball, we have really good seasons for basketball every now and then. Soccer is really good. So if you're thinking about going to a school with Division I athletics, just know that Binghamton has it. However, if you're not a Division I athlete yourself, but you are interested in competing in athletics, we have over 41 club and intramural sports, over 2,000 of those for intramural. And if you're interested in just getting involved on campus in general, so if you want to be a part of plays, you want to be in musical, you want to be in clubs, anything like that, there's over 400 clubs and organizations on campus. Now, the institution is a quite diverse campus. We benefit a lot from being in the state of New York, where New York is a diverse state, and about 70% of our students are from the state of New York. The other 30% are from all over the world, and all 50 states, over 120 countries. So if you're coming to a place like Binghamton, just know that you're going to be welcomed on our campus. Doesn't matter what you look like, who you love, doesn't matter anything like that. Binghamton is a welcoming campus for all. So there's quite a few different resources to help students that identify in any different areas, or if you need any kind of tutoring or resources on campus. This is just a listing of some of them. And if you want to take this down, or we could send this to you later if you wanted to get more information. So in the beginning of the presentation, I kind of talked about the nature preserve and the mountain that we owned on campus, but we are known as one of the healthiest campuses in the country. And we have a ton of things that align with that. So if you're thinking about really being active and staying healthy while you're going to college, if that's something that's important to you, just know that Binghamton's a university that can help support that. Grace, a little later in the student panel, is going to talk about some of the residential communities on campus and what housing looks like at Binghamton. But I'll just let you know now that housing is quite unique at our university. It's not just, freshman housing and then everyone else. It is a little bit different. We're divided into communities, and there's a cluster of buildings. And I'll leave that to Grace when she comes on a little later in the student panel to talk about. Now, I know something that's very important to most of you when you're looking at institutions, and the reason why you go to visit is because you want to see what the surrounding area is like. Now, Binghamton is a city upstate New York. We're no New York City. We're not that large. It's a small city upstate New York. You're not going to be in the middle of nowhere. The downtown is a vibrant downtown. All of the Greek life is downtown for any of you that are thinking about going Greek. There's a ton of opportunities. If you are interested in hockey, the New Jersey Devils minor league team is located in Binghamton. If you're interested in baseball, the New York Mets minor league team is located in Binghamton. So there's a ton of things that happen. We do a ton of festivals. There's a huge festival each fall called Luma. So if that's something you're interested in as well. All right. And there's some information here about cost. Please take this with a grain of salt right now, because some of this information is going to change. But I put it out there, so if any of you want to take a screenshot, you can take it quickly. We offer scholarships for out-of-state students, merit-based scholarships. Once again, some of this may change going into next year, particularly as we figure out what's going on with testing, which I'll talk about in a second as well. So I encourage all of you to apply to Binghamton. I know that many of you may have questions about testing. We are an institution that does require the SAT and the ACT. For right now, that is something that we still require. I'm just letting you know that we are having active conversations about what that might look like if we will go in another direction. And all of that information will be available to students and families by August 1st, which is when all applications open. So for right now, if you had burning questions about testing, I don't have the answers, and I'm going to be very clear. I don't have the answers, and I won't know for a little while. Just know that there are active conversations, and if you do have questions about that, it will come very soon. For everything else, we are looking at your transcripts. We're looking to see that you're taking rigorous courses. For some of your high schools that have gone pass-fail, we won't be taking that against you. Just know that we will be speaking with all of your high school counselors and trying to figure that out. All right, so if that's something that's a concern to you, just know that we are aware, and we're going to be working with students and working with high schools and working with your counselors to make sure that you are going to be reviewed fairly when you apply to Binghamton. And that's pretty much it for my part. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, come back on, and have the students come in. And if you guys want to start throwing some questions in the Q&A right now, please go for it, because we're going to have some time closer to the end to do some questions. But Jenna, did you want to say something before I jump to the students, or are you good?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive. I only see one question right now about the food.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we get to that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's start with our questions. And when I ask the first question, guys, if you want to just introduce yourselves again really quickly for the students. So the first question I have here for you guys is, what's the social scene at Binghamton like?
Hi guys, I'm Emma, I'm a rising sophomore. And at Binghamton, there's so much to get involved in no matter what your interest is. Sports, academic clubs, Greek life, there's just something for everybody. And that's a great way to meet people. And at Binghamton, the students, there's a big balance between academics and social life. And I feel like a lot of the students, most are driven when it comes to school, but then they leave time to have fun and go out with friends. So it's a really good balance with that.
I agree with everything that Emma said. I'm Grace, by the way. I'm going to be a junior next year. I think that it's really easy to socialize on our campus. And when I talk about housing later, you'll understand like why it's very easy to talk to people in your community. And also it's just like a good atmosphere for meeting people, especially with all the clubs that we offer.
Nice, nice. And I'm gonna jump into the next question, Ryan, and you can answer it together. So what's a good way to balance social life and academics? And Ryan, you can start this one.
Okay. Hi again, everyone. I'm Ryan. So one of the important, like this is a very important thing, especially when you guys will find out when you come for your freshman year, is balancing fun and studying. So I admittedly had some trouble with that when I first came here. What I found during my first semester that worked for me was setting a hard rule that my work had to get done before I would allow myself to say, you know, go out on the quad and have a catch or go to the gym or anything like that. So I think trying to set a rule where you focus hard on getting work done by a certain time or before you can do something helps.
So for me, how to balance the social and the academics is to find people that value the same things you do. So most of my friends are in the same major as me. So we have like a plan when it comes to studying, doing work together, and then we'll go out and do things. So I think when you find people that have similar values with what they want to get out of the school, I think that's important when you're trying to balance.
So I think a lot of it also comes with time management, which I think is one of like the most important skills that you'll ever need to learn in college, and prioritizing the things that are like really important to you, because we are in college to learn, but you also do have to make time for like making friends, socializing. So it really is all about managing your time and making sure that you're getting the things done that you need to get done while also enjoying yourself. So.
Right, and Grace, you bring up a great point. So one of the things that a lot of first year students coming into college usually have a concern about is how they're going to break the ice, how are they going to meet new people. So do you guys have any advice that you can share with some of these rising seniors and juniors that may be looking at Binghamton? How did you break the ice? How did you meet new people?
I'll go first, I guess. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have for meeting new people on campus is when you first get here at the beginning of the fall semester or whenever you come, is open yourself up to new experiences. An example for me was, I think it was the second day I was on campus, had just moved in. I went on a hike, which I already normally don't do, made a friend there, and then ended up taking a free dance class with them to meet new people, which is something I'd never done before. And I ended up making a lot of friends there that I hung out with pretty frequently.
And for me, joining clubs was a big thing. My first semester, I joined Women in Business, and that's where I met my entire friend group. So I feel like joining a club with something that like you can meet people like you, that's important. And to break the ice, I found like I would sit next to a new person in my classes and I would just ask, where are you from? What's your major? And that opened up a whole new conversation. So I think to like interact with people that way, it's an easy thing that like everyone has in common.
I agree with Emma. I know that's what I said last time, but definitely joining clubs is a really good way to meet people and make new friends. But I also think that as long as you're keeping yourself open, like Ryan was saying also, just do the things that you think that you'll enjoy. Even if you don't have someone to go with to that meeting, even if you don't have someone to sit next to, don't sit by yourself. Because everybody in the beginning of the year is looking to make friends. Like, especially everyone's experiencing the same thing. So I think as long as you kind of put yourself out there and introduce yourself, I think that you're going to make a lot of difference.
And Grace, since you're talking already, do you want to talk about housing on campus?
Sure, yeah. So for our residential life, we have 5 different communities, which all the names were on the screen before in the slideshow that David had. And each one of these has their own dining hall, except Dickinson and Newing share one, but it's a rather big dining hall. So I'm going to also add in the thing about the food because I just mentioned the dining halls. So honestly, I think that the food is pretty good, especially for a college campus, because I think a lot of times they're kind of looked down on. But I think that there's a lot of options. There's a lot of kosher options if you are kosher. I'm a vegetarian, so they have a lot of options for me. And they also have dietitians and things that you can talk to if you have like dietary restrictions and that kind of thing. And yeah, and then each of the different communities on campus has an emphasis on like a different element. So I lived in Hinman my freshman year, and they have a big emphasis on like the government aspect. So it's very much about like community involvement and like all those kind of things. And each one has different things they focus on. So the reason I said before also that it was easy to make friends in your community or in your building is because on your floor, like you'll get to see a ton of people, you'll have a lot of familiar faces, and you'll soon like get to talk to them. And I find that that's a really easy way to make friends with people that are living with. You can have lunch with them in the dining hall, which will obviously be different next year, but that's a whole other topic. But yeah, I think that about covers it. We also have suite and double style dorms. Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, I think that's great, Grace. And also just one other thing to add. So at Binghamton, we traditionally have not always had first year housing. So I know what Grace was trying to say about, you being able to meet people in your building. You and your roommate might be the only one in your hall or your section that are first year students. You'll be living with sophomores, juniors, seniors. So we do have some first year specific buildings. Like there's one building on campus right now that if you want to be with only first years, you can be in that building. But other than that, you will be in a mixed community. So you and your roommate will be first year students, but the other people in your building or your hall or your section may not be. All right. All right. So let's move off from housing and move on to Ryan, since he has this wonderful poster as his background, which is a research poster. I want you to talk a little bit about research on campus and some of the opportunities that first year students have. I know you did one of them, and some of them that they may have after their first year.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first year on campus, I was offered a spot in the first year research immersion program, the FRI program. When I first joined, I wasn't, I only joined because I thought it would be good. It's good for resumes and grad school and all that. And then very quickly, I learned that I actually really, really enjoyed it. And it's become a staple of my undergraduate career here. So the first year research immersion program, they just switched the acronym around, is great. It helps you learn kind of how to conduct scientific research, how to understand the language surrounding it, where your projects can fall into the fields. You work specifically with a mentor in your stream, a professor here who they're all very outstanding. I specifically was in the neuroscience stream, and after my time in FRI, when it came to applying for independent study labs, which is one of the many avenues you can take it for, research past your first year, it helped me immensely when applying because I'd already learned all the basics and different lab practices that they would need in the fields that I was researching in. I know there's a lot of STEM research going on in Binghamton, but there's also a lot of research going on in different fields. So the poster you see behind me is work I did with Dr. Kim Jousey and the Dickinson research team. It researches the social sciences, kind of how groups of students, groups of people in general work together to get stuff done. And one of the greatest things about research at Binghamton is that you can make it as much or as little as you want. It could be a little thing for you to learn and enjoy. You can choose to take it more in detail, more in depth, more seriously. Like we have many students that have presented at different major conferences all around the country, at smaller undergraduate regional conferences, and even at our own research days on campus, which shows just the scope of stuff going on at Binghamton.
Nice. Thank you, Ryan. And then, yeah, so if you're thinking about doing research, just know that there's a ton of opportunities, as Ryan was mentioning, and he actually mentioned the Dickinson research team. So Dickinson is one of the communities that Grace was talking about. So if you're a student that's really interested in research, Dickinson might be the community you choose to live in when you come to Binghamton. The other really cool thing about Dickinson is that Dickinson has its own theater production company. So if you are a student that you love research, you love that, but you also like to be in plays and you want to be in musicals, you could live in Dickinson and you can get the best of both worlds in the community that you live in. So thank you for bringing that up, Ryan. And Ryan, since you were just talking, a question just came in that I would like you to answer as well. Could you talk a little bit about the environment in the classroom? Like what are the classes like? A little bit like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is actually a really good question, because depending on your major, what school you're in, or even the class type that you're in, they can really change. So first year for me, my general science classes were in big lecture halls, 1 to 200 students, I believe. My FRI class was 30, so, very small, and you got a lot of one-on-one time with the professor. And I took a writing 111 class, which was very small. So you really get to, it really depends. So, and then especially as you go farther into your major at the higher level classes, they also start to become smaller. But yeah, it really depends. I know different schools within the university have different class sizes too. Mine was just for the generic liberal arts and sciences school.
Yeah, Emma, do you want to talk about that as well? Because School of Management is a very popular option for New Jersey students.
So with the School of Management, you take Management 111 your freshman year, which is everybody in the freshman SOM class. So that was about 300 people. So you got to meet everybody who you were going to have like your class with for the next 4 years. But as you move into the major, like Ryan said, they do get smaller. So most of my classes are about 40 people. And to add with the big lecture hall classes with like hundreds of people, they do have like sometimes smaller discussion classes that you meet in addition to the lecture. And those are maybe about like 20, 30 people. So that's also another way to have smaller classes.
All right, thank you guys for answering that. Oh, wait, actually, yeah, Grace, you're in a whole different school. You want to talk about that too? Yeah, you're in Watson.
I don't know that I have much to add. I feel like it's very similar to the other two, where in the beginning, when you first go in, there are these things called engineering design classes, because you don't establish your major as soon as you come in. You can like show interest on your application, but you don't actually declare your major until I think winter of freshman year. It might be spring, I don't know. But so basically everyone in engineering is taking these engineering design classes, which teach you like basics. You actually get like hands-on experience right in the beginning, which is really nice. And then after that, in sophomore year and then going forward, you're going to be in classes that are more specific to your major. So yeah, and then they continually get smaller. But right now in the classes that I'm in, I'm pretty much with all of the people that are in my major. So
nice. All right. So since we're talking about classes, and we're gonna not skip over the elephant in the room. So we're all virtual. We're all at home. doing this right now, and you guys have been at home similar to all the high school students that are on here for a while. So can you guys tell us how you're coping with virtual learning at Binghamton as a college student, and maybe similar to what the high school students are going through, but we know that at least for the fall, some students may be doing some virtual classes as well. So if you want to talk about what that looks like at Binghamton, you know, God forbid this extends longer than a year, but you know, at least we should talk about it. So if you guys want to talk about how that experience has been for you, how you're staying engaged with your classes, with your friends, things like that.
In the beginning, there was definitely a lot of adjustments with getting into the new routine of online classes. But the big thing for me was just taking it day by day and like what has to get done today, because obviously like everything can change so quickly with this whole situation right now. So the big thing for me was not looking like big picture and getting like worried about that, and just think what has to get done today. And of course, texting with your friends about everything, that helps too. Even though we can't see them, it's good to keep in touch that way.
Do any of you guys want to add?
Yeah, sure. One of the programs that we offer is through the University Tutoring Center, which that's something that I really utilized, especially during all of the stuff that's going on, because we didn't have as much access to our professors because everything was either through Zoom or through like pre-recorded videos. So I found that utilizing tutoring, which we also did over Zoom, but there's only about like 10 people in each session. So you get a ton of one-on-one time with the tutor, and it's really great for bettering your understanding of the course material. It honestly got me through all of these classes. And also I think it's important to mention that you want to make sure like you're being productive so you don't kind of fall into like a slump, but you also have to like take care of yourself and just kind of understand these are tough times and you're gonna be okay. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, so I know we're going to go into a full thing of questions. I'm sure Jenna probably has some stock questions ready to go after this, and I see that there are 2 more in the Q&A. But I have one more question for the students, and after that, if you have other questions for the students, pop them in the Q&A. We'll get to them. But my last question for you guys is, what is knowing that, you know, the group of students in here today are rising seniors and juniors, what is some advice you have for rising high school seniors and rising high school juniors, thinking about you know, when you guys were doing this process? It's going to look a little different for them, but many things will still be the same. So what are some things that you guys would like to share with them, since you're already on the other side of it?
So a big thing for me was taking a lot of AP and college level classes, because that definitely saved me a lot of time in college. And another thing is just keeping organized with the whole application process and keeping track of the deadlines and all the different essays for every school you're applying to. And yeah, so those are my big tips.
If Ryan wants to go next, I don't really know that I have much to say on this, so I'll think about it. But
Sounds good. So I would definitely recommend finding clubs and stuff that you're interested in at your high school. If nothing else, there'll be good ways to build hobbies going into college, which then you will be able to find those clubs and such similar stuff on big campuses. So it'll be a good way to make friends once you get here. One thing that I know I worried about a lot was I thought I had to know concrete what my major was going to be, what I wanted to do for graduate school, all that going into it. You definitely want to have some bit of an idea, but it by no means is very set in stone when you go into school. I mean, I've changed majors a couple times and graduate school tracks more than I would like to admit.
No worries, Ryan. That's actually quite typical. The average student changes their major 2.5 times. I don't know where the half comes from, but it's average. And Grace, did you want to add now, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good. I think everything's
okay. Cool. So I'm gonna answer the 2 questions that are in the Q&A, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Jenna for her list of questions. I don't know how long they are, but let's see. All right. So Nicole asks, is it difficult to transfer into another one of the 6 colleges if you start in Harper? So it depends. It truly does depend. So in order to transition from Harper College to one of the other 6 colleges, you'll need to meet certain prerequisites. So let's hypothetically say you wanted to go from Harper to the School of Management. We encourage students to follow the economics pathway, because economics has a very similar coursework in the first year to what School of Management students do. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. And by taking that economics coursework, you will actually be right on track to transition into the School of Management into your sophomore year. So you'll apply for that transfer at the close to the end of your freshman year. We'll look at your grades, we'll see if you've taken all the prerequisites, and you'll transition. Another big one that students like to transition into is our nursing school. So the Decker School of Nursing is a direct entry program. So if you apply as a first-year student and you get in, you're directly in it. However, there is opportunities for students on campus to transition into the School of Nursing. And that one is also prerequisites and grades. And the nursing school, unlike the other schools, actually has more seats as you go along, because as students go out for clinicals, more seats become available. So the opportunity to transition into nursing at a later date is quite possible. To transition into Watson is a little bit harder, because Watson has a very strict curriculum in their first year. So that one is hard. It's not impossible, but that one is a little bit harder. And we encourage students that want to go into engineering and computer science to select that in the beginning, because it's easy to leave Watson. It's a little bit harder to go into it later on. And then for any of you looking at pharmacy, pharmacy is the one school at Binghamton that you can actually apply to as a first-year student. So that's something, when you get to Binghamton, you apply into Harper, and when you get to Binghamton is when you will apply into pharmacy. So that's the only school that is not a direct entry program. You apply when you get to Binghamton. And then CCPA, the College of Community and Public Affairs, is the most transferred into school at Binghamton. Most students, when they get to Binghamton and they take a human development class, they realize that it's what they wanted to do their whole life. So if you're really interested in like social justice, anything like that, human development might actually be where you want to be, but you don't know it yet. And it's okay. It's okay not to know. As Ryan said, he's changed his major. A lot of students have done that. All right. So that question is done. Now, Drew brought up a question about the Binghamton Advantage program. Now, this is not a program that we actively advertise, because it is a program that we offer to students that we think have a lot of potential, but they may have fallen short in one of the areas when they were applying to Binghamton. Now, this is going to change next year, so I don't want to delve too deeply into it, but typically what we're looking for, we read your application holistically, but the main things on your application are your actual transcript and your test scores. And typically one of those two things may be a little low, but we think you have potential to be at Binghamton. So the Advantage program will allow you to come to Binghamton. You'll live on campus, but you'll take your classes down the street at the local community college for your first year. You maintain a 3.0. If you maintain that 3.0, you'll start your classes on campus your second year. And that's quite easy to do. Most of the students that get into the BAT program already have that GPA, so it's not hard at all for them to make that transition. And then, does Binghamton accept community college at other universities? Oh, that's a great question. Thanks again for asking this, Maya. So we are very generous with credit. So AP, IB, A-levels, dual enrollment, SUPA, you name it, we allow it. We're very generous with credit. Other university credit, you need a C or higher for it to count. AP, you need a 3 or higher for you to get credit. IB, you need a 4 or 5 on the HL exams to get credit, or if you have the IB diploma. And New Jersey has not gotten to A-levels yet, but if any of you have A-level questions, which is another type of test, I will answer those as well. And then we also allow you to take, if you're taking CLEP or anything like that, you can get credit for that too. So Maya, thanks for bringing that question up. It was a great question. A good number of students that come to Binghamton actually come to Binghamton with enough credits to be sophomore standing or junior standing, because we allow first-year students to bring in up to 32 credits from exams, which means from IB or AP, and up to 60 credits total between exams and dual enrollment credits, credits from other colleges or community colleges, anything like that. So if any of you are taking classes online at local community colleges, just know that that will all compile. And if you bring it up to 60 credits, you are going to be a first-year student with junior standing. So you have 2 years at Binghamton, and that saves your parents a ton of money. All right, so it looks like that was it for me. I'm going to turn back over to Jenna, and we're doing fantastic with time.
Are. I used to work in live television, so I have like the minutes down. So I will promise to get you guys out at 7:30. Not that you probably have such an active social life during the quarantine, but in case you do, you'll be free. So I guess question for David, students can't see campus, it's closed. If they wanted to drive around the area, drive on campus, walk around campus, how would that go?
Just drive your car. We're a public school, the campus is open, there are no gates. We do encourage, people to keep social distancing. So, you're not going to campus and going into the admission building because none of us are there. But you can go to campus and drive around. And if you just want to see the campus, in the fall, we will have students on campus. Once again, if you're going to go and drive and see the campus, you can do that. But we encourage, that you're not like trying to stop every student you see and ask questions. We do want to make sure that we're sticking with the governor's guidance and keeping social distance.
Yeah. And there are virtual tours available, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that's good.
Yes, that is good.
It fills the void right now, Can you, I guess, either David or maybe Ryan, because you mentioned you hike, can one of you explain maybe like for the kids that can't visit, what's like the look and feel like, not just on campus, or on campus first, and like explaining how far of a walk everything is and what the campus looks like. And then when you go outside the walls of the campus, what is that like, to paint a picture as best as you can? I don't know who wants to answer that.
So I lived on campus my first 2 years, and I'll be living off campus for last year and this upcoming year. The campus is fairly large. If you live in somewhere like Hinman, you're very close to where your classes will be. I had friends that would wake up like 10, 15 minutes before class, roll out of bed, and be in lecture hall by the time it started. I lived in Dickinson. It was probably a good 10, 12-minute walk just to make it there. Obviously, if I woke up late and was running late to a test, I would make it much quicker. Off campus, generally you'll be living downtown where you have to drive to school, or there is like public transportation available.
What's the downtown area like? That doesn't have to just be for Ryan. I don't know who's more of the social butterfly of the group.
Well, let me jump in there on the public transportation piece, because I know that that's a big thing, and a lot of students always ask about like, do I need a car? We have 3 different public transportation systems. As I mentioned, Binghamton is a city. There's the student buses. When you get to campus, you'll see the blue buses. Those are actually driven by students. We have the City of Binghamton buses, and then there's another bus service as well. In addition to that, because we're a city, we have Uber, we have Lyft. There's ways to get around. The downtown is roughly about 10 minutes away from campus, driving. So it's give or take 3 miles. It's not far. Most students would live in the downtown, but Binghamton is right on the outskirts in another little town called Vestal. And a lot of students live in Vestal, where there's a huge shopping center. For any of you that are, and I know Jenna's question stemmed from hiking. As I said, we have a nature preserve on campus. So if you go to the Mountain View community, right behind that is where you'll see the steps to the nature preserve up into hiking and all of that stuff. The downtown looks like a small town. You get there, lots of little restaurants, cute restaurants. There's branded hotels. There's a DoubleTree, another Hilton hotel. It's like that. So it's very accessible. Just think of a smaller town. Actually quite similar to the Livingston downtown, to be honest. If you know that downtown.
Where you spend a lot of time in Livingston.
Where I have spent a lot of time. So if any of you are thinking about things like that, that's really a good feel of what it looks like. And then I know we didn't talk about this, but I want to talk about it briefly. For any of you that are thinking about Jewish life on campus, there is a ton of things going on within Jewish life. The Chabad is actually located right on the outskirts of campus. The Hillel is right in campus. There's kosher at all the dining halls. I know Grace talked about food, but we missed kosher talk. And in addition to that, there's also a kosher corner in C4. So it's one of the dining halls, sorry. So if that's something that's interesting to you, but I'll have you guys talk about the feel more. You've actually lived it. So I'm gonna jump back off.
You can go, Grace.
Okay. I was like, which one was this going? I also wanted to mention that the way that the campus is set up, I know David mentioned before, it's like the brain. So like the classes and like the marketplace, which is a place to eat on campus, and all that stuff is like in the middle. And then around the outskirts is like all like the residential communities. So I think that you can get pretty much anywhere on campus in under 15 minutes by walking. So I think that kind of gives you a feel of like how big the campus is, but it's still really accessible to get anywhere that you need to go. And then I also wanted to mention that the buses are free for students, which I really like, because then you can utilize that whenever you want, and it's not like you have to be paying for an Uber or something like that every time you want to go to dinner or something. So.
And the buses, they also take you to Target, Walmart, Wegmans, which is something fun to do on the weekends, and Vestal Parkway, which is adjacent to the school. Like any store you could think of, they have it. So that's good to do on the weekends.
Great. So for the last 5 minutes, I mean, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. But I guess I'll kind of wrap it up by asking each one of you, what other colleges did you apply to, and why did you choose Binghamton? So I'll start with, I guess we'll go in reverse order. I'll start with Emma.
So I applied to a few other SUNY schools. I applied to Geneseo, and I applied to Stony Brook. And then I applied to a few private colleges like Fordham, Villanova, Boston University. But Binghamton, it was just a feeling when I stepped onto the campus. Like I didn't get it in any other school. It was like welcoming. There was so much to do, and that didn't disappoint, like all the activities that there are. So it just really felt like home, and I love it there. So it was a great decision.
Well, Grace.
So I applied to not too many schools, maybe like 5, but Binghamton was actually the only SUNY school that I applied to. All the other schools were private schools. But I just really liked that when I came to Binghamton. I liked that it was a bigger campus and that there was so many opportunities to get involved and to meet new people. So I really just felt like it was a good fit for me personally, because I'm a pretty extroverted person. So I like to always be out like socializing with people, meeting new people. So I thought that it was a really good fit for me.
So I also applied to a bunch of SUNYs, and then I believe Ithaca and Marist College. For me, Binghamton was the right choice because like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to go to school for, what I wanted to do. And Binghamton was a great all-around school that I could take a bunch of different classes and then figure it out from there.
Okay, thanks guys. Any final remarks? Maybe David, any like last minute advice, words of wisdom?
Oh, my God, this year is going to be very different. And just know that we are going to be working with you. And as I say to all of you, if any of you have ever met me, when I go to your high schools, is I have one job, and that's really to work with New Jersey students and get you into Binghamton. So I will do my best to help all of you get in whatever way that might look like. And if you have any additional questions or anything like that, I know Grace is going to pop a link in the chat in a minute, but this is going to be, we have a running Zoom chat pretty much every day, so you can talk live with an admission counselor. And that is open to parents and students. So if you have questions as we get closer or as we get into the summer or the fall, please hop onto that Zoom chat at any point to talk with us. Okay?
Yeah, and everyone, I mean, David's been really helpful. I know for my students, I don't even think you knew this, David, like who I was working with last year, but they all just said how helpful you were. And like, you know, when they had an issue with their finances or with their application, like you stepped in and you answered the email and took care of it. So that's awesome. So I'm sure all the New York, I'm sure all the New York admissions counselors are like that as well, hopefully. But speaking for New Jersey, and you live in New Jersey, so if you know, when things get back to normal, if you have to meet with people, you know, go to the high schools and things like that, hopefully that will happen soon. All right. Thank you, students. This is great. It's always awesome to have students on, as I said in the introduction. For everybody who is watching still with us, here are the rest of our Spotlight series. We do have a lot to go, so we're about a third of the way through the summer. So again, this is the only SUNY school that we featured because it is the most popular for my students. And so if you want to sign up, you can just Google my name and find it on the website and tell all your friends. But thanks, guys. And I told you I'd get you out right by 7:30, so I think we have 30 seconds to spare. So thank you very much. I know you all have a wild Thursday night at home. So thank you, David. And I hope to see you guys soon. Good luck with your last few years of college. Bye.
Good night.